hat today.
All right, and we're on. Took a little
God.
while. We had our normal every week technical difficulties, but the Beat Cops Guide is up and running. My name is David Haynes. That's Bull Garlington right over there. And we are on Facebook, so.
And I am wearing my third favorite hat.
Share. I'm going to start a watch party. And all right. So we're here. It's Friday. It's the first day of the opening, the relaxed opening here in Illinois. Which were you out at all enjoying anything today, or were you still locked in your basement? Still locked in your house?
I haven't done anything. I sat at my desk all day today, not doing a damn thing, and periodically watching watching Minneapolis burn down.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I went out to. I woke up. I only slept 3 hours this morning, and then went to Tam Golf Course and played around the golf and sat around with my father and my father-in-law.
Whoa, the golf course is open?
Golf course is open. We were able to play a foursome. The restaurant's open to outdoor seating. They took over half the parking lot and set up all the tables outside. And
let's go. I want to go.
It was very nice, I have to say. Tam is lucky that they have the parking lot set up the way it is, so that they were able to. They have a sort of an outdoor patio, with TVs and everything on the wall, and then they took over half of one of the parking lots and added the tables. They probably have the same amount of tables outside that they do inside, and half of them, if it starts raining, are undercover. So that's so they should do pretty well. I thought the setup was phenomenal. So. Tam Golf Course, everybody. And it wasn't full. So. And you did what? Sat inside and...
Hang on, man. Hang on.
What?
I'm hearing too many... I don't know what to do.
Turn off...
Here we go.
Yeah, no kidding.
I got it.
You work on a computer every day, all day. And
No. I know, dude. Today's been insane for me.
How much wine have you had?
Several. They're really good wines too. One of them was a 15% Mourvedre mix, and I'm really deep into it right now. It's really wonderful. And I had 2 beers before that, maybe three beers, because I cooked gumbo. But the thing is that I'm not used to being busy.
Yeah,
it's just not in my wheelhouse. I don't know what to do. I'm so busy that it's messing up my whole. I haven't played a video game in 2 weeks, Dave.
Wow.
Video games are like part of my process because they help me they help my wheels turn when I'm being creative, because I can jump out of what I'm doing and just play some stupid video game for a couple of minutes and the wheels turn on the back burner. I haven't even been able to. It's not even plugged in, man. This whole basement thing and freaking having more clients is just messing me up. I'm going to fire some people.
Hey, your background is kind of messing it up. Your hat keeps disappearing into the background, and it's
me when I lean back.
No, it's like random. It's weird.
I don't know, man. This is first of all, it's my. I know. I look at my headphones keep disappearing. I don't know what to do. It's all messed.
I chose my background to promote peace.
So there's only one thing to talk about today.
Yeah, I know.
Did you really? Here, I'll do that too. I'll do that. I'm gonna promote peace too. So
we could talk about
there we go.
The restaurants. Yeah, that's peaceful.
Yeah, that's Whoa, whoa, whoa.
It's like the speed racer guys are coming to get you.
We should talk about restaurants because everybody at the wine tasting was talking about they all get takeout meals from Alinea.
Really?
Yeah. So they're getting like these crazy cool takeout meals from Alinea and from some other really high end restaurants. And I'm like, if I'm going to pay that much money for dinner, somebody else is going to do it.
You need what?
Yeah. I just takeout is for tacos, man. I mean, you don't need to, I don't need to impress anybody with my freaking takeout at home.
Put your pinky out when you drink that.
But I'm verklempt today, Dave, because I have really sad news. Like, it's actually made me sad, and that is that my favorite bar in Chicago is closing permanently.
Which one?
This is the bar I wouldn't tell certain people about. Like, I kept it to myself. I like my good. Like, if you were still drinking, you would go. There's certain people I'm friends with. I don't tell them that they're not allowed to go to this bar. And it's the California Clipper, way down on California, and I think 18th. I'm not sure. It's an old bar. It's almost a dive bar. Huh?
I said, oh, really? I never heard of it.
Oh my God! It has not changed since like 1939. It is absolutely my favorite bar in the entire city. Their drink menu is short and it never changes, but it is so good. And they have incredible music, and just the whole experience is just exactly what I need in a bar. And they don't open until 8:00, and I would get there at exactly 8 so I could get my favorite seat at the bar. And that was my safe place. And now it's gone.
Why is it? Is it because of the pandemic? Just they can't survive?
Yep. They're owned by a restaurant group. I forget which one. I think it's 50-50. I'm not sure. And but I think they took a look at the summer and the numbers, and they just realized they had to cut somewhere, and that was where they decided to cut. I hope somebody decides to buy it and keep it going. If I had the money, I'd buy it tomorrow, because I'd just so I could go drink there.
Do you know that the Tilted Kilt over there by Village Crossing has changed?
Never been.
You never been, really? It's right next to Buffalo Wild.
No. I'd never been. No. It changed.
I think they
what?
wanted to be a little bit more family friendly, so they're now the Village Roadhouse.
So the waitresses are wearing clothes now, or
yeah.
I have gone there, and I got to tell you, I've never. What's that?
They opened up today for outdoor dining, changed over and opened up today. So
I've never felt more like a pervy old man. And the one thing that I couldn't find a seat at Buffalo Wild Wings, which, as everybody knows, is my neighborhood bar. So I went to Tilted Kilt. I'd never been there before. I didn't understand that it was Scottish Hooters.
Yeah.
And they're and instead of shorts, they wear, skirts or kilt. Yeah. It's legally considered a skirt. Technically not really. It's more like a scrap of fabric, but and I sat by myself at the bar, right where like their station was at on the other side. It was just, I had to leave. It was like being flashed constantly. It was wonder terrible.
I brought my wife there once.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did. The first time I went there, I went with my. Huh? Oh, you froze up a little bit. Yeah, the first time I went there, I also did not realize that it was a Scottish Hooters, basically. But yeah, I took my wife there. We had dinner there. She didn't say anything, so I went back.
How'd you like it?
Yeah, I felt like a pervy old man, and after a while, I realized I'm okay with that feeling.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's got its perky perks.
All right, so I hope our Facebook thing is going because it seems frozen.
I'm
on
watching a
Facebook.
watch party. I've got a watch party going.
All right, and it's going okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's my phone then. It's just froze up. All right, so well, you're right. There's only one real big topic in the world today. It is the first day where the news wasn't completely consumed by the pandemic for the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? You've been watching the news all day?
Well, yeah, and I think that what they've done in Wisconsin with the way they're going to distribute cheese from now on is it's criminal. I mean, so if you're going to buy cheese in bulk in Wisconsin and you're from out of state, you now have to pay twice the amount of taxes pure per pound of cheese than you used to have to pay, and people are rioting in the streets, and I'm with them. I mean, this is ridiculous. When a man can't get affordable cheese, he should go crazy and burn some stuff down.
Well, I mean, as usual, you're wrong. It's just that they're charging for the slicing of the cheese. You can buy a block of cheese for the same.
Slicing. That's how they get you, Dave. That's how they get you. Slicing, all right? You know what it's really about.
No, but okay, if we're going to talk about this, no jokes, all right? None of your little smart-ass comments.
Fuck.
Because
all right, fine.
Tendency. All right, so the Minneapolis thing is pretty bad. Have you? Did you watch the video?
I stayed up late last night watching the coverage.
No, not
and
that.
I was
the
appalled.
Original video.
Yeah. No. So, full disclosure, I don't watch videos where I know someone is actually going to die. I won't do that because I think it's a terrible thing to broadcast, which is actually kind of going against my own journalistic principles. But on a personal note, I just can't do it. I can't watch somebody die. I just can't. So I've not seen the video. I've seen still pictures from it. I know about it, but I won't watch that video. So I won't watch videos about children being hurt. I just don't do that. But I know about it.
Well, and I normally I try not to comment on stuff like this, especially when it gets controversial, because being a police officer, I don't want to get myself in trouble with my own department. But the Superintendent Brown, did a video that it was broadcast. It was designed to be for everybody in the department, but they put it on YouTube, so it's anybody can go see what his comments were to us, and so I feel a little bit more comfortable since in this case we agree, we agree on everything. So a lot of it's gonna be like I'm repeating them, but I saw the video at first. And my first instinct was there's got to be more context to this. There's got to be something that I don't know that, that it looks so bad that there has to be something. And then I saw the uncut video, and I saw the video. There's a video from the building in front of which he was actually arrested. So they have basically the entire incident from the time the police contacted him till the time he died. And after I saw the video, I made everybody in my roll calls watch the entire video so that they could see how long it lasted. And then the next day, I sort of jumped the gun on it, but the next day the superintendent said he wanted everybody to see the video because it was so bad. And it really is. There is absolutely no justification for what these guys did, and it is. And I just want you to know. There's nothing that's even close. No police officer is trained to do anything like what these guys did. The only time you're allowed to put somebody down like that and put a knee on their shoulder or something is if you're cuffing them. This guy was cuffed long before they ever went down and kneeled on him. And if you watch the video that leads up to the cell phone camera video, what you'll see is the police pull him over or pull him out of a car. They don't show the actual stop, but they show the police walking up to the car, getting him out, obviously questioning him, putting him in handcuffs, searching his car or doing whatever. And they had him sitting down on the curb on the sidewalk against the building for
which is correct.
2 minutes. Huh? For a good 2 minutes, they had him.
That's the right way to do it, right?
Well, at first, yeah, and then they get him up, and you have to understand this because it shows how compliant this guy was. From the point where they pulled him out of his car or the car he was in, and they sat him down, and they decided they were going to take him in. They get him up, they stand him up, and they walk across the street, and he complied. You can sort of, if you read his lips, you can see that he was complaining about how tight his cuffs were. I'd be interested to see what their response was because there's no sound to this. But even after that, he walked across the street, and when I say across the street, I'm talking a busy street like Milwaukee Avenue or Foster Avenue, but a busy Minneapolis street, all the way across the street, because the car that they were going to put him in and the car he eventually died next to was across the street. I don't know why they did that. All they did was seal their fate because it shows how compliant this guy was. He walked under his own steam. He didn't fight him. He didn't do anything. They get to the car, and they're putting him in the car, and he starts at that point to kind of tussle with him. But he's handcuffed behind his back. So when I say tussle, I mean stiffening up and moving around. He wasn't like kicking him or anything like that I could see. And
maybe he was just apprehensive about something, like he thought he was going to hit his head on the door or something.
Well, what I think is that they probably told him that they were going to loosen the cuffs when they got to the car to have him comply with walking across the street without any fuss. And then once they got to the car, they didn't do it. And if his cuffs were really tight, you would know you're going to sit down with your hands behind your back. It's going to be tougher, right? So, and at that point, they put him down. Here's the thing: no police officer in America is ever trained to put somebody down, face down when their hands are cuffed behind their back. Nobody. Everybody is trained at the very minimum to put him on his side or stand him up against the car. Nobody is ever taught to kneel on your neck. And so from the moment they started this, they were wrong. And then it went on and on and on for 8 freaking minutes. I mean, I'm telling you, I had my guys in roll call watch the entire uncut thing. And I have yet to see a police officer who's seen this video who doesn't think that is flat out murder. It's serious.
What was their nonverbal response to watching the video?
Well, I mean, most of them were just shaking their head. The debate that we had, or not the debate, the discussion that we had afterward was nobody can fathom. Is that the right way to say it? Nobody can fathom what the hell this guy was thinking who was actually kneeling on his neck. Everybody I talked to said they would never, ever do that. The only thing that we discussed is, what do you do if you're one of those other 3 guys? What the hell? There's 3 other guys standing there watching this, and they have to know it's wrong. Is it just because this guy's senior? And I brought this up. I had my youngest police officer there. I said, listen, these guys are all senior to you. They've been on, 10, 20 years. If they are doing something like that, you have a duty to intervene. I said, if it takes you taking out your stick and whapping the copper against the head to get him off, I'm actually amazed nobody in the crowd rushed out there to grab him. And but that was our discussion. Our discussion was, how do you get the guy to stop doing something that you obviously know is wrong? And
well, I like the suggestion that you made when we were on the phone last night, and you were talking to your guys, and you said that one of the cops could have came up and kind of hit him on the shoulder and said, "Here, let me take over," so that it's like a smooth transition. You know what I mean? It would have been good, but it's such a sad state of affairs. And the sad thing is, for me right now, I've tried so hard in the last 6 months to pull myself away from politics, from discussing politics. I mean, I'm still engaged in my civic duty, but I'm finding that discussing politics is not fruitful. And so, on social media and in real life, I've been kind of pulling back a little bit and using new tactics. Um,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, but I got pulled into a discussion on a friend's timeline, and all I did was I hadn't talked to you yet, but I had read the comments of a bunch of cops on a thread in Reddit, and all of them said what you said. Nobody is trained to do this. We're trained the exact opposite. You never lay a guy on his face when he's cuffed. You don't ever sit on their neck. There's just no way for it. You always try to get them into an upright position, whether it's sitting or standing, because that's the safest thing for their respiratory. And all of them said that this is straight up murder, and it was ridiculous. And so I posted that, and this guy just started posting links as a reply to me to all these companies that train police officers in this technique. Now, maybe this is, I hate to be a tinfoil hat guy. Maybe these were sites that were fake. I don't know. But there were companies that indicate that they're available to train police officers on how to use this technique, because apparently it's very effective at subduing somebody, which I can understand since you feel like you're going to die, and it just, what bothered me was not that those companies exist. All kinds of weird ass companies exist. Just because they say they train cops doesn't mean they actually do it. Maybe they were just waiting until they get a gig, and maybe they never will. But what bothered me is that somebody was posting those links as some sort of defense, and there's still people out there that are trying to find the unbiased version of the story and to try to tell people don't be outraged and stuff. And it's like, you know what? I don't know. I don't mean to bogart the conversation. I'm sorry.
I haven't met anybody like that. And I'll tell you something else. I used to do training, and a part of the training that we did was in positional asphyxiation. There's been all kinds of books and studies and everything. I do not believe that there's actually any companies out there that are teaching people to do what this guy did. It goes back. What was that's got to be 15 years ago now, at the minimum, that you were trained to do exactly not this.
Yeah.
And that was 15 years ago. And not only that, I asked my dad about it today, and because he was a police officer from 68 to, I don't know, 20 years ago, whatever. So, and he said, even going back to 68, even if there's a fight, once you get the cuffs on, the fight's over. I mean, what are they going to do? Even if they run away, you can't run that good with handcuffs behind your back. So
you're not there to punish them. You're not a judge, you're not a jury. You're there to restrain them, and that's it.
Right. And
I can totally understand as a human being that you might be enraged. You might be feeling fear. You might be, there's all kinds of things that I wouldn't understand because I've never been a police officer. And it must be a terrifying job to have to actually fight someone. Like your job is to sometimes fight somebody. I'm 56 years old. I think the last time I was in a real fight was in 4th grade. I didn't do very well. It's not something I would relish doing. So, I mean, it's ridiculous for me and people like me to armchair manage that kind of stuff and say, well, this is what you should have done. But I mean, in context,
let me tell you this. There is very few things that we in this day and age come across where you can say with absolute certainty whether something is right or wrong. And this is one of those times. There's no doubt. I bet you if you showed this guy that video, when he sees it in court, he's going to be like, I can't believe I fucking did that. I that's the only thing I can think. I mean, unless he's just a stone psycho killer. But this is one of those times where everybody can look at this and go, that's wrong. There's no, I mean, there are times where even in controversial stuff going in the past, there's well, there were certain circumstances that maybe normal civilians don't understand, and maybe that's why they did it. Not in this case. This is just there's no doubt. I mean, you could see everything from 10 minutes before until after. And you know, another interesting thing, and I pointed this out to the guys at Roll Call, if you listen to the beginning of that video, the guy taking the video was not on George Floyd's side. He was saying, why did you try to fight him? You can't win. Why don't you just get in the car? And at that point, George Floyd was saying, I'll get in the car. Just let me up. I'll get in the car, or whatever the hell he was saying. I will. And it was after that they started yelling at the police officer. But at first, they weren't necessarily against the police officer at the beginning, but after 3 or 4 minutes, it's nuts. He passed out after 4 minutes. I think he passed out. The guy, I mean, clearly you could see his shoulders relax. I don't know what the hell these people were thinking to kneel on him like that, even after he was unconscious. It's just even before he was unconscious, it goes against everything we're trained to do. And
here's the unpopular opinion that I brought up with a friend of mine last night. I think you and I may have talked about this a little bit too, is that I understand that in the broadest sense of context, the broadest context, that this is definitely an incident that is, simply adds to the unfortunate narrative of racism in America. I totally get that. But this may not have been motivated by racism. It may have been something else. It may have just been an enraged psychopath, and it may not have had anything to do with race at all. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what was in the man's heart. It didn't seem to me watching it that it had anything to do with his race. I mean, when I try to get inside of his head, I think that he seemed like the type of police officer, and there's a type out there, who sees guys that are breaking the law as just criminals, not people. Your job is to get them in the car, get them into jail, and that's it. And it may not have anything to do with his race or his gender or whatever. It may just have to do with, this is a bad guy, and I'm taking him with me, and nobody's stopping me. And then I think the fact that the crowd was telling this guy to do something, and some police officers see that as a challenge to their authority, and then they dig their heels in. Other than being a stone cold psycho, I don't. That's the only thing I can figure out. There's clearly no excuse for it, but
I think it's important that people explore the idea that it's not racist, and that this cop's problem was not racism, but that this cop's problem was what you said, that he has an us versus them mentality. And that's as dangerous, or maybe even more dangerous, than being racist. Because in his mind, I think perhaps the world is divided between people that are criminals or may become criminals and cops, and that it's constant conflict. And I doubt that he could ever see it the way you said it a second ago, which is that, yeah, you're arresting somebody, but they're still a citizen. They still have, they're still a human being, and they just made a stupid mistake. And your job is to correct them during that mistake and stop them. It's not to injure them if you can help it. And I don't want to armchair cop somebody, but I think most cops, I think you think that way. I think most cops think that way. And the sad fucking thing is, just as you said, that this guy probably has that mentality, that which I call an us versus them, circle the wagon mentality. There, on the opposite side, there are people that feel that way about police officers, and I think a lot of them were throwing stuff into the fire last night, and I don't think that is a racist thing either. And I think that there are just people that have come to just trust and hate police officers, and on a without having the experience with police officers other than perhaps being arrested or seeing them on television, and that doesn't do anything to help this.
No, but you know what? If you don't mind, and we don't have pre-show meetings, so we didn't really discuss this too much. But if you don't mind, I think we should wait and talk about the protests on Tuesday, and because I want to see how everything plays out over the weekend. I can kind of understand how things blew up last night, and I don't. I really think that these are two separate topics, and I kind of wanted to get a little separation in between the two, because
That's smart.
Huh?
That's smart. You're right.
But the other thing I wanted to say that I brought up at roll call, and you know, part of the thing you forget when you get to a higher rank, sergeants and lieutenants and above, you work alone. I work alone, generally speaking. When I drive, when I'm out on the street, I'm by myself, and it have been for years. And you forget a certain facet of police work that I tried to bring up at roll call, and I was asking if they still do it, is that when you're working with a partner, especially when you have a regular partner, you should be discussing different things that may happen. You know, and I said in this roll call room, it's just us. It's just the police officers. There's no civilians, no reporters, no bosses. I said, this is the place we could talk about something, because you mentioned armchair quarterbacking. And I mean, I don't like to sit there and talk about what somebody else did 1,000 miles away in a situation where we don't know the laws. But we can apply it to what we do, and we can point out the obvious wrong, first of all. But second of all, is like, okay, and I made this more for the younger guys. What do you do when you're in that situation? And you should be discussing it with your partner here, whatever, in the roll call room. But it's, what are you going to do if somebody clearly loses the judgment to deal with something? How are you going to, like we talked about, tap him on the shoulder, I'll take this guy, get off. And at the minimum, if that Asian officer had tapped him on the shoulder, said, here, get off of him, I'll take care of it, and tried to stand him up, at the very least, he would have been shown to at least tried to intervene. Because they're all going to jail, and 3 of them absolutely deserve it. The Asian guy, he deserves it because he didn't intervene. I don't know. I didn't see what else he did. They have to look at the body-worn cameras, because you can't really see. There's a sort of a gap where you can see them at the car across the street, but before the cell phone video starts, and so I don't know how they tackled them or what, but. So we discussed it, and I remember having every partner. What are you going to do if you get into a foot chase? Who's going to drive the car? Who's going to chase? What if he throws a gun? You used to try to come up with these scenarios and figure out what are you going to do if A, B, or C happens. And I try to tell these guys, I don't know if you guys are still doing it. After you get to a point where you're working alone, you forget it, and it should be something that everybody does. When I was in the Marine Corps, it was called Red Squad. You try to figure out what the enemy's going to do and then how you're going to counter that. And this is the same kind of thing. So we sat there and talked about, first of all, how do you get somebody in the car who's not trying? How do you check to see if the cuffs really are tight? We went over, how, and putting it on your body camera. If you can fit your finger in there, and you have your body camera showing it, so you can show that this is, and then how do you talk them in? Another thing, and I don't know how Minnesota is. I don't know what the laws are or how they're handling this pandemic or whatever. But in Chicago, we would not have taken him into custody for that crime, even if he was guilty. We would have written him a ticket.
What was the crime?
Supposedly, he either passed a fake $20 bill or wrote a bounced $20 check. It's some kind of fraud. It was some kind of fraud. We would write a ticket right now and it's because of the pandemic. We would, but the pandemic's going on in Minnesota too. So I would assume there are laws. We're not taking people into custody for basically a crime as long as we can verify their identity and get them later, So I don't understand why they were taking him into custody to begin with. And we talked about that. We talked about how to check to see if their cuffs are tight, how to get somebody in a car when they don't want to get in the car. And not for nothing, just taking your time. You could stand there. He's in handcuffs. You could stand next to the car for an hour. I don't give a shit. You're not going to get in trouble if it takes you an hour to talk some guy into the car. Eventually, he's going to get tired of standing there, and he's going to get in the car. No reason to
You've mentioned this before. This seems like one of the wisest things that I've heard you say about being a police officer. And I don't know anything about how prevalent that point of view is, but I think that you said one time, like, if you got a guy at a convenience store and the doors and the guy's just like yelling and he's standing there and everything, you're not in a hurry. You got all day. You guys get paid by the hour. No one's, you don't have a deadline. Everyone's like, take care of the problem as long as it takes. It's not like somebody goes, okay, this is a robbery. We got to wrap these up in 34 minutes. It's not like that. Take as long as you need to. And I wonder how often the opposite of that is happening. Like, these guys feel a sense of urgency to get the guy into a car and into jail, when that's actually not true.
No, actually, well, let me put it this way. It's easy for me to sit here and say it. It is very difficult when you have a crowd staring at you and you feel like you have to take control of a situation. It's difficult not to feel the pressure to end it right away. It's very difficult.
And you mentioned that before too. You've talked about what the definition of control is. And you said if you've got the exits blocked, if the guy is essentially contained, no matter what it looks like to the crowd, if you're in control, you're in control. Let the guy yell and do what he wants. If you're in control, you're in control. And that's another thing you've talked about where I'm like, how come more people don't know about that?
It's just difficult. We've kind of talked about it before a million times. Remember Cotton Fight, and he used to, a psychologist that we both know, who's rest his soul, but used to talk about the fact that you just keep talking people. If they say something, you reflect back and you go on and on. I remember as a sergeant when I used to investigate CR numbers and people wanted to bring CR numbers against police officers, I would sit there and talk to them for an hour and a half. I don't give a shit. Like you said, I'm getting paid. As long as I have a cup of coffee before I get there, I'm fine. And most of the time, most people just want to know that they're being heard. Half the time you talk to them for a while, then they say, I really don't want to get a complaint. I just wanted to have a boss really understand where I'm coming from and maybe tell them not to do it the wrong way next time. And it happens a lot. And the fact is that if they had stood there next to that car with 4 police officers and a handcuffed guy, he didn't want to get in the car, so they just kept talking to him. Even the guy videotaping it was going to get bored if you're just talking to a guy. They're not going to keep. And so even if he felt like there was a crowd surrounding him, they clearly were not at first yelling at him. They were not throwing things at him. They weren't doing anything but standing around watching. And if you're just standing there talking to the guy, man, I really don't know what these guys were thinking. I maybe can think I can understand in the heat of the moment, getting them down, but then staying down there when there was no earthly reason to do it is just I don't know. And it's it's really disheartening for police officers who really try hard to do their job every day to see guys like this. This is it. We're going to be hearing about this for the rest of my career. And I mean, to a certain extent, rightfully so, because this guy has just painted everybody with a really bad brush. The only thing I'm heartened to see is that no matter where you turn, everybody is saying, "Hey, these guys, this was clearly bad. This was wrong," and most police officers are not like that. But
Well, I also I have to say
you lost your sound just went out again. You did something.
How about now?
No.
Now?
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's me.
No,
Wait, maybe it's me.
Okay.
No, you're not. Oh, say it. Try it now.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
No.
No. All right. How about now? I put it on my Mac.
A little bit. It's a little bit louder. Maybe it's mine. I don't have my other headphones plugged in.
I mean, I could turn it up a little bit. How's that?
Yeah, no, your microphone's not working. I can hear your voice very vaguely, and it's like you're on a shitty speakerphone.
What the fuck, man? All right, hang on.
All right, well.
Okay, how's that?
Barely hear you, but it's a little better. Well, you know what? Why don't we end it there for tonight? I mean, all we were going to do is talk about a couple restaurants. We can do that on Tuesday, and we'll come back on Tuesday. We'll talk. We'll see how these protests go. Although last night really devolved into a riot, but we'll see how the protests go over the weekend. And on Tuesday, we'll have maybe a little bit of a longer discussion. We can talk some more food for half the time, and we can talk protests.
When did you say the cigars are going to open up?
Okay. If you can't hear him, he asked when the cigar places open up. I stopped over there. The cigar lounges are not opening up, but all the cigar stores are open up to buy cigars. So
I want a lounge.
They will. The lounges, the cigar lounges in Illinois, will open up when you can eat inside. That's considered in. Yeah. All right. So thanks for joining us on the Beat Cops Guide. Nobody left any comments, but if you want, you can leave comments on our Facebook page. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please go to YouTube and subscribe. And yeah. So thank you very much. We'll see you next week. All right, now I got to figure out how to turn this off.